Charles offered to walk her down the aisle, Meghan replied, "Can we meet halfway?" And how the Queen knew Harry had left Britain for good as they'd taken the dogs, two of the gems from a landmark new biography of the Queen by Robert Hardman. Even for a Nobel Prize-winning leader of the free world, this had been one of the great nights of his life. Back in his suite at Buckingham Palace, Barack Obama simply wanted to savor the moment. He had just been honored with a state banquet given by Queen Elizabeth II. It wasn't the Midas-like display of George IV's gold and silver tableware collection or the quality of the delicious XX Grand Cru 1990 Romani Conti which had made this such an exceptional occasion. It was the rapport he had formed with a host who could talk with such authority about so many of his predecessors. Obama had been enjoying himself so much that the Queen had eventually taken the Chancellor of the Exchequer to one side to ask if he might, very discreetly, let the U.S. President know that it was bedtime. "I just said, yes, ma'am," George Osborne recalls. "I could see Obama with a drink in hand, and I was thinking, what do I do? I couldn't just interrupt and say, oh, the Queen wants you to go to bed." Fortunately, he was saved by the Queen's private secretary, who gently nudged proceedings to a close. Still buzzing, the President summoned his two closest aides, including senior speechwriter Ben Rhodes, for a modest after-party in the Belgian suite, where the Queen accommodates her state visitors. There was work to do. "I really love the Queen," Obama told Rhodes. "She's just like Toot, my grandmother. Courteous. Straightforward. All about what she thinks. She doesn't suffer fools." They developed a real affinity, says Rhodes. He saw how much the Queen went out of her way to make a black American president feel as welcome as possible. She treated him a lot better than some other leaders, treated him, I can tell you that. That was very powerful. She and Prince Philip, people who, generationally and racially, couldn't be more distinct from the Obamas, were trying to strike up a genuine friendship. Obama was blown away. "I have been writing about the Queen and the monarchy for 30 years. Through good times and some very bad ones, during which I have interviewed her family, her staff, her ministers and her fellow world leaders. In the course of writing this new biography, I have also studied documents and correspondence, much of it previously unseen. Time and again over her 70 years on the throne, during which she has been a devoted head of the Commonwealth, I have seen how the Queen has gone out of her way to promote interracial, multi-faith, cross-community cohesion. All of which will have made it particularly upsetting, in her 10th decade, to find her monarchy facing imprecise yet wounding charges of racism not from Republicans or culture warriors, but from within her own family." From the Queen's perspective, Harry and Meghan had promised so much, for the country and for the monarchy. After leaving the armed forces in 2015, Prince Harry had thrown himself into several causes, notably the Invictus Games for wounded military personnel. "Harry has shot the lights out with Invictus," David Cameron observed. The prince did not just win admirers at home, he persuaded the U.S. First Lady, Michelle Obama, to become closely involved and secured an interview with Barack Obama during a stint as a guest editor of Radio 4's Today program in 2017. One BBC veteran recalls that the prince was a grafter and one of the most hands-on guest editors the program had seen. Another ex-president joined Harry for the 2016 Invictus Games in Florida. "I watched very carefully how he can relate to the soldiers," says George W. Bush. "He cared about them. I left with a very positive impression." So when Harry sat down with his American actress fiancée, Meghan Markle, a year later for their engagement interview with the BBC, a new chapter seemed to be dawning for the royal family. The couple had talked excitedly of their future in a Commonwealth context. The Queen subsequently appointed him as her Commonwealth Youth Ambassador. Shortly before they married, Meghan had joined him as he toured the conference rooms and receptions at the 2018 Commonwealth Youth Summit. If it was unusual for a royal bride-to-be to have a central role at something as important as this, it was proof of the confidence which the Queen had in them both. The omens would look even better, a month later, when the bride walked into St. George's Chapel, Windsor. For there, an exquisite hand-stitched detail all over her 16-feet veil, were the flowers of every nation of the Commonwealth, a touching and respectful homage to the Queen's own coronation gown. Meghan's mother, Doria Ragland, a Los Angeles yoga instructor of African-American heritage, had flown from California, the only member of Meghan's family present. Her father, entirely unused to media attention, had been persuaded by a local news agency to pose for photos, seemingly taken by a paparazzo, of him preparing for his daughter's big day. When the ruse was exposed, he announced that to spare the couple any embarrassment, he was not coming to the wedding. It then emerged he was in hospital with serious heart problems. This unhappy sideshow was exacerbated by the venting of Meghan's two half-siblings, angry at not being invited to the wedding. However, there were no invitations either for other seemingly blameless members of the bride's family, such as Meghan's uncle, Michael Markle, the U.S. Air Force veteran and diplomat who had once secured her an internship at the U.S. Embassy in Argentina. The dynamics of her family certainly eclipsed the usual criticisms about the royal family being dysfunctional. Feeling for his future daughter-in-law, the Prince of Wales offered to step in, saying he would be honored to escort Meghan up the aisle of St. George's Chapel to the altar. The reply, according to one friend, was not quite what he was expecting. "Can we meet halfway?" Here was an indicator that this was no blushing bride, but a confident, independent woman determined to make a grand entrance on her own. Across Britain, the overwhelming reaction was one of delight that Harry, one of the most popular members of the royal family, had finally found happiness. Windsor had looked its best and even the weather had been perfect. What more could a monarch want? In October 2018, the Sussexes embarked on an extensive Commonwealth tour of Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific. Coverage was relentlessly positive, yet they made no effort to engage with the accompanying press corps. On their own tours, the Queen and Prince Philip would usually arrange a reception for both the local media and the traveling press. The monarch had always worked on the basis that a taxpayer-funded royal trip should be reported. If not, there wasn't much point to it. The Sussexes had no such plans. At the end of 16 days of traveling and 76 engagements, from Tonga to Sydney, their officials asked them if they would, at least, acknowledge the press corps. These were regular accredited royal correspondents and photographers, who cover the royal family all the time, not the grenade-throwing columnists or paparazzi whom the couple particularly detested. Finally, during the last leg of the tour, the couple grudgingly walked to the back of the plane where the press were working. The Duke kept things short. "Thanks for coming," he told them, before adding, "Not that we invited you." This would be the high water mark of the Sussexes' relations with the British press. Unfortunately, the couple were still feeling sore about the whole business around Meghan's father and the press before the wedding, says a palace staffer. That was not going to change. At times, it almost seemed as if frustrating the media had become a point of principle for the Sussexes. 3 months after their return from Australia, they were guests of honor at a gala evening for the Queen's Commonwealth Trust at the Natural History Museum. Having paid £120 a head, well-wishers had at least expected to see and hear the Sussexes, if not receive a handshake. As the couple arrived, however, huge screens were erected in the atrium to prevent anyone obtaining a photo or even a glimpse as the couple were swiftly ushered into a side room. "It was joyless," says one benefactor. "It felt more like a witness protection program than a royal fundraiser." By the end of 2018, more and more leaks were finding their way into the papers. Reports emerged of pre-wedding arguments between Meghan and royal staff over her choice of tiara, between Meghan and the Duchess of Cambridge over a dress fitting for the bridesmaids. Among friends and fans of the Duke and the pregnant Duchess, this would all be cited as proof of an agenda of bullying, favoritism, towards the Cambridges, and an undercurrent of closet racism within the press. The Duchess's decision to fly by private jet to be feted at a lavish celebrity baby shower in the penthouse of a New York hotel pointed to another factor in her troubled relationship with the British press. What might be par for the course in U.S. celebrity circles simply jarred with what the public expected of members of the royal family. This was not just the usual suspects being horrid or trying to polarize public opinion into Kate versus Meghan opposing camps. From the environmental charity Friends of the Earth to regulars on the parental website Mumnit, there was robust criticism of a trip which smacked of both excessive extravagance and eco-unfriendly double standards. As for the Kate versus Meghan narrative, royal officials were managing to give that story newfound legitimacy anyway. On March 14, 2019, the palace announced that the Cambridges and the Sussexes would be splitting their offices and staff. This was, in part, down to a fact of royal life. For the moment, both princes were funded by their father's Duchy of Cornwall revenues. As soon as a change of reign occurred, the Duchy of Cornwall would go directly to William. Harry and Meghan's public duties would then be supported by the new king at Buckingham Palace. Since the palace was undergoing a £369 million, 10-year refurbishment program, it made sense to allocate new office space to the Sussexes and their staff now rather than later. Eco-unfriendly double standards. As for the Kate versus Meghan narrative, royal officials were managing to give that story newfound legitimacy anyway. On March 14, 2019, the palace announced that the Cambridges and the Sussexes would be splitting their offices and staff. This was, in part, down to a fact of royal life. For the moment, both princes were funded by their father's Duchy of Cornwall revenues. As soon as a change of reign occurred, the Duchy of Cornwall would go directly to William. Harry and Meghan's public duties would then be supported by the new king at Buckingham Palace. Since the palace was undergoing a £369 million, 10-year refurbishment program, it made sense to allocate new office space to the Sussexes and their staff now rather than later.